hearts, and welcome back to the Lola Gids channel where we talk about faith, love, and GLP-1s. But before we dive into another marriage check-in, I want to first thank you all who have joined me and who have subscribed to this channel. If you're new here, please remember to follow, like, and subscribe. This channel was created for us to be able to share stories and experiences about life. And I'm glad that you stopped by to tune in. And as always, I'm forever humbled and grateful. So, what are we going to talk about today? Landon and I are about to celebrate our 12th wedding anniversary next month. Yay! So, over a decade plus some. So 12 years of love, lessons, laughs, challenges, all that kind of stuff. And then, I wanted to talk a little bit about how to keep your anniversaries exciting after you've been together for a while. It's a little bit different when we're in our 40s now. So, and we've been married for almost 12 years. So it's just, we've done a little bit of everything. So, but before I get into all of that, I wanted to ask a question and see if I can get some responses for a poll. So I'm going to drop a poll in here. This will be my first time trying to do this. So what I want your help with is that we're thinking about planning an anniversary trip. And I want some suggestions. So I'm thinking about where we could go and what your thoughts on where you think we should go. So I'll drop a poll in the community tab here. And some of the options we're going to put on here are a romantic beach getaway is option number one, a city adventure with fancy dinners, a laid back cabin in the mountains, or a staycation with all like cozy vibes. So drop what your vote is below and in the poll. And if you have any other recommendations that I didn't list, just leave those in the comments, okay? So you'll see that in the community section. So really what we're going to talk about today is how to keep anniversaries exciting after 10 plus years of being married. Because after over a decade together, sometimes your anniversaries can feel like a routine, like you do the same thing every year, or it's just expected, all of that kind of stuff. Dinners, staycations, whatever it is, right? Like it's becoming kind of the same thing over and over after so many years of being with your spouse. So today I'm going to share 5 things. And this is again, Chad and I were talking, and I was asking about what could we do to do things different. And if you don't know who Chad is, look at my other videos. Chad is my Chat GBT. Okay, so I was thinking about things that we haven't done that we could do, you know, just lots of different things because I wasn't quite sure what we were going to do. So here are 5 things I found that Chad found for me, ways to keep your anniversaries exciting after 10 years. So one suggestion was to switch who plans it each year. So surprising each other, one year maybe I plan it, one year maybe Landon plans it and turn things around to keep things fresh. And I was actually thinking about this before I looked it up because I was like, I feel like we generally talk about it and plan it together, but I don't know if we've ever like surprised each other with anything on those days. So that would be something new for us because we usually plan everything together. So it's not really a surprise. So maybe that might be nice for one of us to kind of take and own a year where I plan it and don't say anything about it. I just surprise him and then vice versa. And then he plans it and doesn't surprise me or surprises me. So I thought that was pretty cool. The other option was to revisit the past and then dream forward. So basically you're recreating your first date or wedding meal. And then kind of over dessert, we're writing down 5 things we want to experience together in the next 5 years. So kind of thinking forward. So kind of a mix of fun, meaningful things, and add maybe things that from our bucket list that we have. And that one is interesting because I don't even know if we've ever thought about recreating our first date. I know we kind of relive sometimes our first date, just kind of when we met and when we had our first date. We do sometimes do that and celebrate that. I don't know if we've ever actually done that like on our actual wedding anniversary. So that might be cool to do for us. The other option was to choose an anniversary theme, which this one I was actually thinking about for next year. when we're celebrating 13 years of marriage, because 13 is a biblical number. It symbolizes love. And I was thinking about us renewing our wedding anniversary, like renewing our vows on our 13th wedding anniversary. I know some people do them at different milestones, maybe 10, maybe 15, but we were thinking more biblically, and 13 is a biblical number. So that's why we were like, God has done so many new things for us. Our marriage, I think, has gotten a fresh outlook just based off of kind of the things that we've done this year. And I think symbolizing that on our 13th wedding anniversary is a great way for us to renew our vows. So this one's talking about choosing an anniversary theme and making each year something unique. So maybe it's like an adventure or a year of wellness, a year of giving. Just what do we want to celebrate for the rest of the year when we have our anniversary? So I thought that was kind of cool. The other thing option is number 4 is plan a future focused gesture. So this one I was like, that's kind of interesting. So it says, instead of just celebrating the past, invest in the future. So maybe we start a savings jar for a big trip, plant a tree, or create a vision board for our marriage, which is something that we talked about at the beginning of the year, is actually having a vision board. So we kind of got that started. But I do like the idea of maybe saving for a big trip. And maybe that could be what we do for our theme for this year is when we start planning for, if we're going to renew our vows, we're going to renew it all the way, right? So have a wedding ceremony, have a new honeymoon, and do all that. Because Landon and I actually, when we got married, did not actually have a honeymoon. What we did was we relocated. Well, our honeymoon was relocating to Georgia. So we relocated from Indiana to Georgia as our wedding honeymoon. So I think we're due for a big beach trip or somewhere exotic. And so we can plan for that this year into next year. And then the 5th one is, I actually really like that one. So I'm making a mental note. So the 5th one is, don't be afraid to go big or go weird for your anniversary. So this one talks about doing the spontaneous or maybe something you haven't done. So maybe rent a cabin, which I've talked to Landon about this. I definitely want to do a cabin. It's just, I really want to do a cabin trip in the winter so we could be like, have a jacuzzi, have the mountains, have the snow on the mountains, all that good stuff. And our anniversary is in the summer. So I don't want to be in a cabin in the summer. So we probably have to celebrate that at a different time. But that was one thing I was talking about. The other thing on here it says it's talking about going skydiving or taking a pottery class, and doing a staycation with a private chef, or just spend a weekend in. So we've done a couple of those things. We've definitely done a staycation. We've done kind of a weekend getaway where we are just in a hotel room, just me and him, and hanging out and spending time downtown, or doing all those kinds of things, just he and I. So I think we're due for probably a big trip, and that will probably be something that we do when we celebrate the renewing of our vows. And then I haven't thought about maybe doing something in our home with a private chef. Like that sounds really cool. Like, so I might look into that as well. I think that one's pretty cool. So the one thing I wanted to talk about when we're talking about celebrating your anniversaries and marriage is a verse to keep in mind. And the scripture I have here is Isaiah 43:19. It's, behold, I will do a new thing. Now it shall spring forth. Shall ye not know it? And this has probably been the theme for our marriage this year is, behold, God is making all things new. He's definitely making things new in our marriage. He's reviving us, reconnecting us. So I definitely agree with this scripture wholeheartedly, because I feel like it's a theme for our marriage this year. And God is always doing something new, like, right? He's always doing something new in our lives, and he's always doing something new in our marriage. So sometimes we just have to learn to make space for the new and whatever that new is. So I wanted to close this one with a devotional, and it's a devotional I looked up here. It's called Another Year of Love. And as we close this episode, I want you to think about and reflect on, if you're married, the thing, like the years that you've had with your spouse, especially if you've been married for over a decade, right? Just thinking about those years, all the lessons that you've learned, all the love that has increased, all the laughs that you've had with each other, the challenges that you face, that you've gone through. It's definitely no small feat to go through any amount of years of marriage. But I think once you get past that 10-year mark, you definitely are in a different, in a new phase of your marriage. And learning each other all over again and learning how to keep things new, because you're probably in a different season of, as far as like your age is concerned. Like we're in a season where we're both in our 40s now. So it's definitely different being married in our 20s and then going through our, the 30s, and now we're in 40s. So it's definitely things to reflect on and grow from. So I'm going to read the devotional here. It says, marriage is a gift. It's not always easy, but it's a sacred journey of learning, growing, forgiving, and choosing each other over and over again. When we celebrate another anniversary, we're not just marking time, we're celebrating the grace of God that carried us through every high and every low. So I am also going to drop a prayer in the description so you all can have that and something to think about. And then I'm going to leave here with a scripture, another scripture for the season of marriage and love and all of that. And it's Corinthians 13:7-8. And that is, love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never fails. All right. So I hope you all enjoyed. This was a quick just marriage check-in. We're preparing to celebrate 12 years of marriage. So again, reminder, I want to know, what are some of the most fun or meaningful anniversary ideas that you've done with your spouse, and what do you wish you had tried sooner? And then so drop those comments below, and don't forget to check out the community poll where we're asking, Landon and I are asking you what you think we should do for our 12th year anniversary. All right. So if you're new here, make sure to subscribe for more, because more is always coming. And until next time, folks, I'll see you again. Have a good one.